Hello, Minnesota! It is great to be with all of you today. And join me in thanking a man who has represented this state with great distinction in one chamber of the Congress, and I know he is going to be the next United States Senator from Minnesota, Jason Lewis. Thank you for your leadership and for those stirring words. And to Congressman Pete Stauber, Congressman Tom Emmer, Congressman Tom Tiffany, it is great to be in the North Star State with all the hard-working men and women of Workers for Trump. It is great to be with so many friends. I'll have more to say about all of them in a minute. But speaking of friends of mine, allow me to bring greetings from another friend of mine, who I spoke to just after I landed here in Minnesota. And when I told him I was back in the North Star State, I don't know about you guys, but I thought he sounded just a little bit jealous. So let me bring greetings from a man who loves the state of Minnesota and believes in November we're going to carry this state. I bring greetings from the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump. And I'm really honored to be with all of you today. I don't know if you heard about it, but we just finished up the Republican National Convention with a South Lawn address by our president that was incredibly stirring, incredibly inspiring. Contrast that with the Democrat National Convention. Jason Lewis and I were talking about it. He said to me that their convention seemed more like a Zoom HR meeting. Our convention was a celebration of American greatness. And I'm here to talk about all of what we've accomplished and what we can yet do. But to be honest with you, I'm here for just one reason and one reason only. And that is that Minnesota and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. It's on, Minnesota. You know, the president in that address last night really laid out a vision and the choice in this election. As President Trump said, we've got a vision for our second term. It's more jobs, better wages, more support for our heroes in uniform at home and abroad. And as the president said in his words, voters have never faced a clearer choice between the two parties. It's a choice between whether we allow Joe Biden and the Democratic Party to advance a socialist agenda that would demolish our cherished destiny, or whether we stand and fight for the American dream. That's what this election's all about. So I thank you for coming out today. And you can sit down, please. It's great to be back here in Duluth. I'll never forget, we were in Duluth on November 7th, 2016. And we came just that close to winning Minnesota. And I just know that the day after our convention ended, the right place to start was right back here in Duluth. The road to victory begins in Duluth, Minnesota, and we're going to win this state on November 3rd. And I'm excited to be with all of you today, but like all of you, let me also say that our hearts are with all of our fellow Americans in Louisiana and Texas and states that have been impacted by Hurricane Laura. You've seen the images of the devastation, the worst storm to strike that part of our country in 150 years. We grieve for the loss of lives, and those families are in our prayers. The President will be traveling to the region to review the damage, and ensure that the families and communities have all of the support that each one of us would want to make sure that we had. Our message to the people of Louisiana, Texas, and all of those areas affected by Hurricane Laura is we are with you today. We will be with you tomorrow. We will be with you every day until we rebuild bigger and better than ever before. That's our promise. So thank you. Well, like all of you, I'm here because I stand with President Donald Trump. When this president stands up for faith and family and the American flag, I stand with President Donald Trump. When this president stands up to the radical left and their socialist agenda, I stand with President Donald Trump. And when this president stands up for American jobs, American workers, and American miners, we stand with President Donald Trump. You know, 4 years ago, a movement was born. And it looks like it's doing pretty well here in Minnesota today. It's a movement I just heard about of everyday Americans from every walk of life. Here in Minnesota, you people, you believe we could be strong again. You believe we could be prosperous again. America said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016. And I know that Minnesota is going to say yes to 4 more years of President Donald Trump in 2020. Because with this president, for this state, it's about jobs, jobs, jobs. You know, the choice in this election couldn't be clearer. The stakes couldn't be higher. You've got a president who's done more for this country's economy, for our rights, our liberties, than any president in my lifetime. And I have to tell you, as the proud father of a United States Marine and the father-in-law of a United States Navy pilot, I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president who cares so deeply about the men and women of our armed forces and their families. Under President Donald Trump, our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard are finally getting the support that they deserve to defend this nation. We've rebuilt our military, revived our economy, and this president has also stood without apology for all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And this president has stood without apology for the sanctity of human life. In our first 3.5 years, this president has appointed more than 200 strong conservative judges to our federal courts at every level, and President Donald Trump has stood for law and order every single day and will stand for all these things for 4 more years. We made great progress. We made great progress in this country the first 3 years of this administration. And I'm here to tell you none of that would have been possible without the strong support of Jason Lewis, Tom Emmer, and Pete Stauber in the United States Congress. They have stood strong with President Donald Trump. And would you join me in thanking them one more time for the principled conservative leadership that Pete Stauber, Tom Emmer, and Jason Lewis have done for America. Thank you, men. It's amazing to think in those 3 short years, strong support of our partners in the Congress, and with your support, we created the greatest economy in the history of the world. We restored the strength of our American military. We respected in the world again and strengthened the constitutional foundation of this nation. In a word, we made America great again. And then the coronavirus struck our nation from China. But I'm pleased to report to you, before the first case of coronavirus spread happened within the United States, President Trump took unprecedented action. He put the health of America first. He suspended all travel from China, and he saved countless American lives. And I can tell you firsthand, the President's unprecedented action before the month of January was out bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. At the President's direction, we marshaled the full resources, not just of the federal government, but of the entire American economy. We forged a seamless partnership with governors across America in both political parties. And we called upon our great private sector free enterprise system in America. We reinvented testing and produced billions of supplies that we delivered to our amazing doctors, nurses, hospitals, and healthcare workers. In fact, I don't have to tell you, in Minnesota, a great healthcare tradition in this state. The work of our doctors, our nurses, our healthcare workers throughout this pandemic has been nothing short of heroic. And join me in thanking all of those who've been there for our families struggling in this pandemic. Thank you for your care. Thank you for your professionalism. We are grateful and proud of you all. And while Joe Biden said the other day that no miracle cure is coming, I'm proud to report to you, because of American innovation, because of the relentless drive of this president, the expectation of the American people, we've been developing treatments, therapeutics from day one. We just approved convalescent plasma that was developed right here in the great state of Minnesota, and we are on track to have the world's first coronavirus vaccine before the end of this year. I want to say from my heart to all the families, the more than 1,800 families in Minnesota who've lost loved ones, and to those that are struggling with serious illness today, that you're in the prayers of the American people. And we're going to continue to work every single day to make sure that our healthcare workers have the resources and support to give your family the support that any one of us would want a family member to have. But thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're seeing positive trends all across the country. Even in the wake of the outbreak in the Sun Belt, we're seeing downward trends. We're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. We're saving lives. And we're opening up America again. And we're opening up America's schools. You know, because of the strong foundation that the President poured in those first 3 years, we've already seen 9.3 million jobs added to this economy in the last 3 months alone, including 56,000 jobs right here in Minnesota. And in the days ahead, as we open up America again, I promise you, we'll continue to put the health of America first. As we work to bring this economy back, we all have a role to play, and I know you will. But we also have a choice to make come November 3rd. I know you got early voting starting, so it's real soon, so it's time to make sure people ask a fundamental question. I asked it at Fort McHenry just the other night. As we see this economy coming back, as we see America regaining our economic strength, you got to ask your neighbors and friends, who do you trust to rebuild the American economy? A career politician who presided over the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression? Or do you trust a builder, a job creator, a man who will lead America to all new heights? We need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House to bring America all the way back and then some. So we've gone through a time of testing, but we're coming to that time for choosing. And on jobs, on values, on safety and security, the choice could not be more clear. You know, I watched as much of that Democratic National Convention as I could. Near as I could tell, though, they didn't talk too much about their agenda. They were mostly spending their time attacking America and attacking our American president. They haven't talked too much about their agenda. And frankly, after I looked at it, I don't blame them. I mean, that might be why, I was told on the way here, that might be why Joe Biden hadn't been back in Minnesota for 1,000 days. I mean, think about it. Think about it, men and women. In the midst of a global pandemic, as America is starting to recover, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. Well, President Donald Trump cut taxes across the board for working families, businesses large and small, and we're going to cut taxes again with 4 more years. Joe Biden wants to bury our economy under an avalanche of red tape. Got his own version of the Green New Deal, $2 trillion environmental boondoggle, where President Trump signed more laws cutting federal red tape than any president in American history. And we're going to keep lifting the burden of red tape off American businesses. And I don't have to tell you, here in Minnesota, Joe Biden and Barack Obama tried their best to shut down mining in the Iron Range. I mean, remember, Joe Biden actually told a group of coal miners that they'd have to, quote, learn to code. Well, President Donald Trump stood up to China's steel dumping, imposed tariffs, and opened up the Iron Range. And President Donald Trump will always stand for the way of life of the hard-working men and women of northern Minnesota and the Iron Range. And where Joe Biden wants to end fossil fuels, President Donald Trump has made America energy independent for the first time in 70 years. I mean, it's not just those tariffs on the Iron Range. Joe Biden actually wants to go back to economic surrender with China across the board. He actually said not long ago that he wants to repeal all of the tariffs that are leveling the playing field for American workers. Well, President Donald Trump stood up to China. We'll keep standing up to China to put American jobs and American workers first. But Joe Biden's record on trade goes far beyond our relations with China. He voted for NAFTA, and I don't have to tell all of you all across the heartland, we know what happened there. Back in the Hoosier State, we literally saw almost entire communities shuttered as factories closed and moved jobs south of the border. mean, did you know since NAFTA, literally 60,000 factories closed all across this country? President Donald Trump, he said we could do better. And as I stand before you today, NAFTA is gone and the USMCA is the law of the land. You know, the experts tell us that the USMCA, a deal that puts American jobs and American workers first, could create up to 589,000 new jobs across this country, including 50,000 manufacturing jobs. And speaking of manufacturing, remember the last administration? About this time 4 years ago, the last president was asked about manufacturing jobs. They'd lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under their administration. And he said, I don't know how you're going to bring those jobs back. He said, what do you have, a magic wand? Remember that? Well, we didn't need a magic wand. We just needed President Donald Trump in the White House. 500,000 manufacturing jobs created in just 3 years. So it's been about our security. It's been about prosperity. But as I said, it's also been about our values. And this president, from very early on, has stood for the religious freedom of every American of every faith. The freedom of religion is called our first freedom. And even a casual study of the American founding, you understand that people came here for many things, and chief among them was the freedom of religion. That's why this president took such strong steps early on. He's the first president in American history to ever convene an international conference, not once but twice, on religious liberty. He spoke at the United Nations about America's commitment to freedom of religion. We ended the enforcement of the Johnson Amendment so that pulpits around America could be free once again, and we ended the assault on the little sisters of the poor. I mean, you think of a group of nuns taking a pledge of poverty, spend their entire lives just helping the poor. But under Joe Biden and Barack Obama, they became a target of the Obamacare mandates. And believe it or not, Joe Biden actually said, after a Supreme Court decision that upheld President Trump's leadership, sparing the little sisters of the poor, Joe Biden said that he would work to impose those mandates in Obamacare back on the little sisters of the poor, but we're not going to let it happen. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years, and we're going to defend the religious liberty of every American. And where Joe Biden actually supports taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president who stands without apology for the right to life. Where Joe Biden is actually calling for historic increases in funding for Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in America. It was my great privilege as President of the Senate to cast the deciding vote to allow states across America to defund Planned Parenthood, and President Donald Trump signed the bill. You know, the choice in this election could not be more clear, especially when it comes to the safety and security of the American people. This president knows that national security starts with border security. This president has often said, if you don't have borders, you don't have a nation. Joe Biden is for open borders, sanctuary cities. And Joe Biden wants to give free lawyers and free health care to illegal immigrants. By contrast, President Donald Trump has stood strong for the rule of law, and we've already built more than 300 miles of that border wall on the southern border of the United States. And with 4 more years, we're going to build it all. And we're going to fix this broken immigration system once and for all. And from the first day of this administration, this president and our administration has stood for law and order, and we have stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. Like one of our strongest allies in Congress, who was actually a police officer here in Duluth for more than 2 decades before the people of Minnesota sent him to Washington, D.C. He was injured in the line of duty. And now he's brought a perspective on law enforcement at such a time as this that could not be more valuable, not just for Minnesota, but for America. So join me in thanking Congressman Pete Stauber for his service in the uniform of law enforcement and his service to America. You know, I can tell you, our president knows, your vice president knows what Pete knows. Is that most men and women who serve in law enforcement are the best people in this country. My uncle was a cop in Chicago, Illinois for 25 years. And nobody hates bad cops more than good cops. I mean, I don't have to tell you people in Minnesota, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis, and justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting and violence that has followed. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. It's one of our God-given liberties, but rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Tearing down statues is not free speech. Perpetrating violence against innocent civilians and law enforcement is not peaceful. Those who engage in these actions will be held to the fullest account of the law. You know, at the Democrat convention last week, Joe Biden didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across this country. So let me be clear. Whether in Kenosha, Portland, or Minneapolis, the violence must stop. As President Trump made clear when he called on your governor months ago to send in the National Guard in Minneapolis, he said again this morning, when states ask for help, the federal government will act quickly and we will end the violence on the streets of our city. Too many American heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans striking down Americans. We will have law and order on our streets for every American of every race and creed and color. The American people know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and standing with our African American neighbors to improve their lives, improve their schools, and create new pathways to live the American dream. From the first day of this administration, we've done both. President Trump has demonstrated you can stand unwaveringly with the courageous men and women of law enforcement, and you can fight for jobs and opportunity and educational choice and excellence for members of our African American community. We've supported law enforcement, we've supported our minority communities, and we'll continue to do both for 4 more years. You know, by contrast, Joe Biden says that America is systemically racist and that law enforcement in America has, and I quote, an implicit bias against law enforcement. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. But under President Donald Trump, we will always stand with those who stand on the thin blue line. We're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever. As the President said last night on the South Lawn of the White House, when you look at their agenda, Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left, for an agenda that would literally take our nation on a path to socialism and decline. That's why Minnesota and America need to vote again to send a president who will continue to lead our nation on freedom and opportunity for all. We need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. Men and women of Minnesota, workers for Trump. Not only has the choice in this election never been clearer, but the stakes have never been higher. You know, last week Joe Biden said that democracy is on the ballot. The decency was on the ballot. But I think you all know our economic recovery is on the ballot. Law and order are on the ballot. But as I said at Fort McHenry, there are things on the ballot far more fundamental and foundational to our way of life. In this election, I think it's not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, whether America will be more Republican or more Democrat, more red or blue. The choice in this election is whether America remains America. Whether in this moment, in our generation, we will stand up for everything that has always made America unique and exceptional. Our commitment to freedom and liberty and justice for all. But I have to tell you, looking out at all of you, I know we're going to choose. We're going to choose the path of freedom. We're going to choose the path of opportunity. We're going to choose 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. And I believe it's going to happen because I see faces like yours everywhere I go. Just like 4 years ago, when the pundits were all counting him out. I never did, because I was out traveling among the American people. You know, I watched our campaign in 2016. He would go to cities and literally draw tens of thousands of people. I would go places and literally hundreds of people would show up. But it was all the same. It was people who knew we could be strong again, who knew America could be respected again, could be standing tall again. And the great news is, as we travel across this nation, more Americans of every background are understanding what the stakes are in this election. I get some of my best information from the C-SPAN call-in line. Apparently, one other person here does too. Stayed up a little late after one of the nights of our convention, and I heard a woman, a lifelong Democrat, call in, maybe like a lifelong Democrat, so many of you that are standing here today. And she just called in and she said, you know, after listening to them for a week and listening to this president, she said, I know what I'm going to do. She said, I'm going to cast a vote for freedom. I'm going to cast a vote for America. I'm going to cast a vote to re-elect President Donald Trump. It's happening. You know, you may not know that I actually started in politics as a Democrat. I was the Youth Democratic Party coordinator in Bartholomew County, Indiana, back in 1975. But you know, I heard the voice of my second favorite president, who talked about a strong national defense. He talked about an America's prosperity built on less government, less taxes. Talked about an America grounded in our highest ideals and timeless values. And I knew the party I belonged in, and I'm seeing people come our way every single day. You know, my grandfather was an immigrant to this country. He drove a bus in Chicago, Illinois for 40 years. He was a proud Democrat, but my grandfather wouldn't recognize this Democratic Party today. And so I want to say, all of my fellow Republicans who are gathered here today, I'm honored to stand with you. All the independents who are gathered here today at this Workers for Trump rally, we're grateful for your support. But I want to say to all the Democrats who are gathered here today and all across Minnesota, join us. If you believe in freedom, if you believe in a boundless American future built on timeless American ideals, join us and re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. And we're seeing people come our way every day. In fact, we're joined here today by a small business owner who served for 12 years as the Democrat, farmer, labor mayor of Duluth. And today, like so many Democrats across the heartland, he's supporting President Donald Trump for 4 more years. Would you join me in thanking Mayor Gary Doty, his wife Marcia, and their granddaughter Kennedy? We are honored to have your support. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both. And your granddaughter's wearing a Trump Pence shirt. I gotta like that. In fact, 6 mayors of traditionally Democrat parts of Minnesota, I learned on the way here, are actually endorsing President Donald Trump today. I just met the mayor of Virginia, Minnesota, and the mayor of Two Harbors, Minnesota. They're both former Democrat farmer Labor Party members, but now they're supporting President Donald Trump for 4 more years. Will you join me in thanking Mayor Larry Cuffey and Mayor Chris Swanson? Come on up, guys. to say a word?
I'll have him say a word, and if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
all right. Read this letter. Thank you very much.
Vice President Pence, it's an honor to have you here today. What a wonderful treat. As he just said, there's many people in northern Minnesota, and you know this, who truly are Republicans. They truly understand what's going on. Our job is to go out and reach those people and bring them over from the Democratic Farmer Labor Union, from the Democratic side, to this ticket, Vice President Pence and President Donald Trump. I don't know that mayors from northern Minnesota have ever gotten together. This might be a historic moment to step up on a stage, and I want to have the Virginia Mayor Cuffey present just a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Great words. Great job.
4 more years. Well, good afternoon, everybody. As the mayor of Virginia, I've been tasked and the honor and the privilege of not only being here today and meeting the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Mike Pence, and supporting Donald Trump for the next president, 2020 and beyond. I've been asked to read this letter, and I think by just presenting it to Vice President Pence, I think we all need to know what we as Iron Range mayors have to say and who our Iron Range mayors are that support Donald Trump and Mike Pence. As Greater Minnesota mayors from Democratic cities on the Iron Range, we write today formally to endorse the re-election of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President Mike Pence. Like many in our region, we have voted Democrats for decades. We have watched as our constituents' jobs left not only the Iron Range, but our country. By putting tariffs on our products and thousands of jobs supporting bad trade deals, politicians like Joe Biden did nothing to help the working class in the last 8 years. We lost thousands of jobs, and generations of young people have left the Iron Range in order to provide their families with good paying jobs elsewhere outside the state of Minnesota. Today, we don't recognize the Democratic Party. It has been moved so far to the left, it can no longer claim to be advocates of the working class. It has been moved so far to the left that it can no longer claim to be advocates of the working class. I repeat that. The hardworking Minnesotans that built their lives and supported their families here on the Iron Range have been abandoned by the radical Democrats. We didn't choose to leave the Democratic Party. The party left us. And I didn't realize before that we were really Republicans in Democrats' clothing. Yet for 4 years, something wonderful happened 4 years ago. Donald J. Trump was elected President of the United States, and he stood up to China, implemented tax cuts, and fought for the working class. Now, 4 years later, the Iron Range is roaring back to life, and for the first time in a very long time, locals are hopeful because this president's policies and willingness to fight for us is real. Lifelong politicians like, I'll say just the other candidate, are out of touch with the working class, out of touch with the country needs, and out of touch with those of us here on the Iron Range and in small towns like ours across this great nation. In this election, there is a lot at stake, but the biggest risk is our jobs, our economy, and our way of life. President Trump delivered the best economy in nation's history. And President Trump And President Trump will deliver for us again. He will continue to fight for every American, regardless of party affiliation, and continue to stand up for the working class. So today, us 6 mayors, we write to formally endorse President Donald J. Trump and Vice President Mike Pence for 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years. And it's duly signed by 6 Iron Range mayors. Myself, Larry Cuffey, the mayor of Virginia, Chris Swanson, the mayor of Two Harbors, John Champa, the mayor of Chisholm, Robert Vysalovich, the mayor of Evelyn, Chuck Novak, the mayor of Ely, and Andrea Zaponsins, the mayor of Babbitt. We're proud to stand before you and re-elect Donald J. Trump and Mike Pence for 4 more years.
Wow.
Mr. Vice President, thank you very much.
Wow.
It's a pleasure.
Wow. Fantastic.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Wow. Mayor Cuffey, Mayor Swanson, thank you. I'm humbled by your support, and I can't wait to deliver that letter. Thank you all for being here today. To the mayors for their support. But just as important, thank you for your support. Men and women of Minnesota, it's on. It's time. I came here today to make sure we all understand the choice that we face. All that we've done for this country over the last 3.5 years. Rebuild our military, revive our economy, reaffirm our commitment to our highest ideals and values. The way this president's led us through this time of testing, but as we approach this time of choosing, we all need to do our part. And I want to encourage each and every one of you to do like these mayors have done. To step up, just like you have today. Stand out. Reach out to your neighbors and friends. You know, I'll always believe that the most powerful media in the world is not your big television networks. It's not your social media. You know, it's not some big newspapers or people driving influence on the airwaves. But I think it is today and as always has been word of mouth. I think that's what happened in 2016. I think the American people talked to each other. They turned down the sound and they picked up the phone. You know, there's nothing more compelling than to hear from someone who knows you and respects you about an issue that you believe is most important. So I'd like to personally ask you to just reach out to your neighbors and friends, send out an email, make a phone call. At work and at worship, just say, you know, I was in Duluth the other day, I ran into Mike. And he got up there and talked for an hour just about everything that we've done. And he told us we're just getting started when we give 4 more years to President Donald Trump. We're going to make Minnesota more prosperous than ever before. We're going to make Minnesota safer than ever before. And with your support and with God's help, we're going to make America great again. Again. Thank you very much, Minnesota. God bless you, and God bless America.